Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to my channel Kalanati. Today I am back with another list of anticipated book releases because there are always more things coming out. These are books I'm really looking forward to from July, August, and September of 2021. As usual, these are not all of the books I'm looking forward to. It's just a pared down list of titles that I'm sure I'm going to seek out, read, and report back on at some point. So many more things are going to be published. And if you're looking for more information on the books I want to talk about today, they will all be listed down below in the description with links. And with that, let's get into them. I don't really share specific release dates because sometimes they change at the last minute, but these are grouped by month. And the first thing on my list for July is A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. This is the first in her new series of novellas from Tor.com, and I think it promises to continue Becky Chambers' trend of feels and I guess plumbing the depths of human emotional and social capacity, what have you. I always associate her books with found family and kindness and asking questions of ourselves, I guess. So the description of this one says, self-aware robots who faded into myth and urban legend until one day the life of a tea monk is upended by the arrival of a robot who asks, what do people need? In a world where people have what they want, does having more matter? Which I think is actually a very important question. I'm looking forward to this one. Okay, for some reason that's the only book on my list for July. I thought there were more. I guess we're moving on to August already. Next up is Dark Waters by Katherine Arden. This is the third in her middle grade horror series that began with Small Spaces and Dead Voices. Even though I'm not really into either of these, I don't read a lot of horror and I don't read a lot of middle grade, I have become quite invested in this series and I really enjoyed the first two installments. I also found them genuinely suspenseful and kind of scary in places. I really enjoy how Arden writes middle grade, I think. I have read one of her adult fantasy novels and I was like, this thing is okay, but it's not really for me, and I would never have expected that her middle grade horror series would be my thing. So in this third book, the characters Ollie, Brian, and Coco are trying to find a way to defeat the Smiling Man once and for all. And they end up going on a trip where they encounter a lake monster and end up shipwrecked. And that's a lot to happen in one book. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I'm also eager to find out if Arden is going to continue adding other points of view to the story. The first book was just from Ollie's perspective and she was fine, but I actually really wanted other characters' input. And then the second book, Coco, also got a perspective and I was like, yay, this is what I want, this is what I really want. So maybe Brian will have a POV in book 3 as well. A short story collection that I'm really excited about, guys. Spirits Abroad and Other Stories by Zen Cho. I knew that Zen Cho had a short story collection called Spirits Abroad that came out years ago, but I never found it or been able to read it, and it is being re-released with 9 additional stories by Small Beer Press in August. You know I have it pre-ordered. I'm a huge fan of Small Beer Press and I regularly check to see what their upcoming releases are, and I was so excited when I saw this expanded edition of the short story collection. The description doesn't say much except that this contains 19 stories that weave between the lands of the living and the lands of the dead. I am really excited for this and very happy to see that it's being re-released and available with more stories. Don't you love it when you find a new favorite author who is very prolific and like publishes 2 or 3 things per year and you're like, you are the gift that keeps on giving? This is how I feel about Silvia Moreno-Garcia. She's got at least 2 books coming out this year, and the next one is Velvet Was the Night, which is described as a delicious twisted treat for lovers of noir about a daydreaming secretary, a lonesome enforcer, and the mystery of a missing woman they're both desperate to find. So this is definitely like a noir mystery thriller, since I'm not really sure how I feel about both thrillers and noir. I could be a little bit iffy on that. This is one I'm going to get from the library first, but it is definitely something I will read because it is by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. Now moving on to a contemporary romance novel, The Heart Principle by Helen Hoang. The first book in this series was The Kiss Quotient, which I loved. I think it was probably one of the first romance novels I read and thought, I really like this. And one of the things I really enjoyed about it that made it work for me was that the main character was autistic, and the way that that was explored within an intimate romantic relationship, that was, oh, it was really good. It really did something for me. And the Heart Principle is the third and I think last in the series. I'm pretty sure that all of the main characters in the series are going to be on the autism spectrum. Like, that representation is going to be in all the books, though the description doesn't mention it for this one. It just says a woman struggling with burnout learns to embrace the unexpected and the man she enlists to help her. So this is definitely one that I'm going to check out, and hopefully it'll be just as good as the first one. The second one, I think it was The Bride Test, was good but not my favorite, so we'll see. Then some nonfiction. Fear of a Black Universe, An Outsider's Guide to the Future of Physics by Stephon Alexander. This is described as a guide to science and society, where a cosmologist argues that physics must embrace the excluded, listen to the unheard, and be unafraid of being wrong. Stephon Alexander shows that great physics requires us to think outside the mainstream, to improvise and rely on intuition. Drawing on his experience as a Black physicist, he makes a powerful case for diversifying our scientific communities. I really want to read this as a follow-up to Chanda Prescott Weinstein's book, The Disordered Cosmos, which was along the same lines. I read that earlier this year and I really loved it. I really appreciated and needed to learn what she had to say in that book about being Black, working in the physics and science communities and all of that. And I think that this new book by Stephon Alexander is going to be topically along the same lines, and it's something that I am very interested in and I think is very important to learn more about. As somebody who really enjoys reading about and learning about science and physics and stuff, I've had my eyes opened to how white popular science is in the publishing industry, and I'm really trying to get away from that. Lastly, for August is In the Watchful City by S. Qiouyi Liu. I don't recall if I've read any short stories or other fiction by S. Qiouyi Liu before, but I know I've read some of their translation work in the past. So I'm familiar with their name from that. And when I was looking at the latest batch of upcoming Tor.com releases, I saw this novella and thought, well, I recognize that name. So this story, it says, explores borders, power, and diaspora and transformation in an Asian-inspired mosaic novella. And if there's anything that also catches my attention, it's the description mosaic story or mosaic novel. And it is compared to both Central Station by Lavi Tedar, which I loved, and Palimpsest by Katherine and Valente, which I don't recall loving, but it certainly made an impression on me at the time. So this is one I definitely need to check out. And then there are 4 exciting books from September that I want to share. The first is No Gods and No Monsters by Cadwell Turnbull, which I think is going to be the first in a series. The description says, one October morning, Lena gets the news that her brother was shot and killed by Boston cops. But what looks like a case of police brutality soon reveals something much stranger. Monsters are real, and they want everyone to know it. I read Cadwell Turnbull's debut novel, The Lesson, a couple of years ago, and I liked it. I thought it showed a lot of promise, and I wanted to follow what he did next. So I'm excited about this next book. I'm kind of going to approach it as literary SFF though, as like literary fantasy. That's kind of how I felt The Lesson was, a little bit more on the literary end of the spectrum than like full-on genre fiction, I guess. And obviously No Gods, No Monsters is going to deal with some contemporary issues like police violence as well. So yes, I'm excited to see what this turns out to be. Another short story collection I'm really looking forward to is The Art of Space Travel by Nina Allan. I have actually read the title story of this collection, The Art of Space Travel, which was, I think it was a novelette nominated for the Hugo Award a couple of years ago. I remember loving it, and that was really my first introduction to Nina Allan. And I've sporadically read anything else that I've been able to find by her in short story magazines and stuff, and I've read 3 of her novels. So I am looking forward to this, especially because I think it's a bit difficult to find some of her stories, and this will be a good way to get them all in one place and read them. There isn't that much of a description to it, but hey, I know I'm gonna like at least one of the stories in it. The penultimate book on this list is one that pretty much made me scream out loud when I heard that it was coming out. It is Fuzz, When Nature Breaks the Law by Mary Roach. Can you just tell how excited I am? I have read all of Mary Roach's books except for Spook, mainly because I've never been able to find the audiobook of it, but someday I will get around to it. She's the author of books like Packing for Mars, Grunt, Bonk, Gulp, etc. She always tackles the curious science of various things like digestion and sex and living and traveling in space, that sort of thing. Her books are really entertaining and humorous. She's up for pretty much any type of experimentation and research, and they're also very informative. This one is about nature breaking the law. That is such a Mary Roach topic. Some examples include a jaywalking moose, a bear caught breaking and entering, murderous trees, etc. It's the curious science of human-wildlife contact. I have been periodically looking up what Mary Roach has done since Grunt came out, I think like 5 or 6 years ago. I'm more than ready for this one. And the last book on this list, I am thrilled, finally has a firm publication date. I've had to continually remove it from past lists because it just keeps getting pushed out and pushed out and pushed out, but finally it is coming out. It is Perhaps the Stars by Ada Palmer, the conclusion to the series Terra Ignota that began with To Like the Lightning. Now, since this is the 4th book and the conclusion, and it's a very complex story about pretty much a global utopia that might not actually be a utopia, that then kind of starts to fall apart. There's so much going on. I'm not going to talk about the plot of the 4th book. I'm not going to read anything about it, but I have read and reviewed the 3 previous books, so I will leave links to those reviews if you want to go watch them. But yes, I'm so happy this is finally coming out. And that, everyone, is this list for July, August, and September. Let me know if you were also looking forward to any of these, or if you have anything that you are particularly interested in, leave it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.